Hello and welcome to the Punting Green, brought to you by PriceUp.bet and oddschecker. This is the show where I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined by Ginger Joe as we look ahead to the weekend's PGA Tour events. We've got the Memorial coming up this weekend, one of the best PGA Tour events of the season, one of the best fields of the season. Basically, without Rory McIlroy, apart from that, we have the best players on the PGA Tour all turning up for the Memorial this weekend, and the lineup of winners in recent years has been stellar. So it should be a decent event. But Joe, we'll kick off with a quick review of the Charles Schwab. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was good. A good tournament to see out. Nice to see. Ben Griffin back in the winners enclosure. He's certainly a player that's sort of been through a lot, and he was possibly a player that was coming to the boil at the right time as well. Really frustrating week for us again, and I am going to highlight where our players finished this week just to outline how frustrating it has been. We're looking at tournaments with sort of 150 plus players. Now, last week we had all six players were in the top 25 positions, and we've only managed to get a return on one. So it's very frustrating. We had Harry Hall at tied 6th. We then had Novak at tied 11th. Bartia, Glover and Grayson at tied 22nd. We had Keith Mitchell at tied 26th. So it's really frustrating because we're finishing at the right end of the leaderboard consistently, but we've only had a small return there of Harry Hall. And it was actually the same for me on the DP World Tour this week as well. We had Brandon Robinson-Thompson in tied 2nd pretty much the whole way through until the last round. And then he just fell apart, and he was my one main selection last week on the DP World Tour as well. So look, it's been really frustrating, but you've got to take the positives in the sense that we're not missing the cut every week. We're actually banging contention in round 1, 2 and 3. We just need them to see it out a little bit better. At one point we had 5 players in the money, and to end up with just one on a tied place is painful for our followers, George. But look, like I said, we are finding ourselves at the right end of the leaderboard at the same time, so we can't be too disheartened. We've just got to wait for the tide to change a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Knocking on the door, time to beat that door down. What did you make of the kind of headline performers last week? You mentioned Griffin, who won. Scheffler kind of never quite put himself into contention despite being a very short price at the off.
Yeah. I mean, look, we mentioned last week that there'll be better times to back Scotty Scheffler. He was 5-2 to win this tournament, and look, rightly so. He's ended up finishing tied 4th. He never was really even in the tournament, but he kind of scores a 68, 71, 64 on the Saturday and 69 on the Sunday, and he didn't even play that well. It's just a testament to how good he is. He still managed to finish tied 4th. That leads the form for him in this event being 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 4th. So he's probably going to be 5-2 for the event next week, next year as well. But I like the fact that he stayed busy, though, George. We're not far away now from the US Open, where Rory McIlroy, I think we've seen him once since the Masters, and I would suggest that Scotty Scheffler is the one that's having the right preparation for the tournament. Anyway, I don't like to see Rory McIlroy off the tour for too long, because he's a momentum player. When he sort of finds his groove, he continues to find his groove. I don't want him trying to find himself peak form for the day in the US Open, because that's what's led to his failures in sort of the Masters and things like that previously, obviously, up until this year. So, look, Scotty Scheffler isn't playing his best, but it's still good enough to compete, and everyone needs to be worried about that. And I'm very surprised that McIlroy isn't playing here this week. That's a big shock to me.
Yeah, it is surprising. Anyone else that caught your eye? Tommy Fleetwood threatened sometimes to challenge before falling away.
Well, I feel very sorry for Tommy Fleetwood backers. Since 2017, he's now had 26 top 5 finishes on the PGA Tour and still not managed to get himself a win. Now, we have discussed a few times on this episode and off camera as well that pressure brings a little bit of added tension into people's golf swings. I've mentioned this about players on the DP World Tour that are extremely talented and not able to get themselves a win due to this reason. On the PGA Tour, you're finding this very often with Tommy Fleetwood. You get into the final round, bit of added tension, pressure, whatever you want to call it, and his golf swing falls apart, particularly with his putting. And the same can be said about Colin Morikawa. He's a player that should be winning much more than what he does, but as soon as that tension comes, his putting just falls apart. It wouldn't be the biggest surprise to see Tommy Fleetwood have his breakthrough in a major, perhaps something like the Open Championship, but he must relax because his game from tee to green is just superb. But you can't, there's no point hitting it 8 foot from the pin if you're going to 2-putt. You might as well have missed the green, made up and down to save your par, because it's just the same outcome. He must learn to relax a little bit more on the greens. Bobby Mack played quite well this week, 2-time PGA Tour winner. He seems to be coming back to a bit of form at the right time. But one player, George, that must be noted for the future, well, in fact, for now, is a player called Rio Hatsune. I think I briefly mentioned him in this episode previously. He's only a 22-year-old. Every single week, you're finding him in the top end of these leaderboards in these big events. Now, he's not shy of winning either. He has won the French Open on the DP World Tour in 2023. He was only 20 at the time. I actually tipped him that week as well at 80-1. So he's been a player that I've been following for a long time. But he's not going to be disappearing anytime soon. This is a player that's going to be around for a very, very long time. 4 top 25s this year. He's had to switch from the DP World Tour to the PGA Tour, which generally takes some time to get used to. A lot of the best players in the world that are doing this transition. Look at Thriston Lawrence. He's really, really struggled. He was top notch on the DP World Tour. He's then gone back to the DP World Tour this week, just gone and finished tied 4th or 5th. So, but Rio Hatsune, he's made the transition smooth as anything. Apart from Aberg and Bobby Mack, I think he's probably the player that's come over and just handled this really, really well. He's stayed busy as well. He's played 16 events this year. He's made 11 of his cuts. He's world number 86. He's only going to get better. Like I said, he won on the DP World Tour when he was a 20-year-old. This is just a really, really exciting player. As soon as there's a few events where I can back him to beat Matsuyama, I think this is going to be the number one golfer in Japan in the near future. He's only 22. Look, he was tied 6th last week. He shot 7 under par. This is a very, very talented golfer in the making.
Love it. Hatsune, one to keep an eye on there. Yeah, certainly impressing and amazing to think he is that young, given the consistency of his performances at the moment. Let's get into this weekend. It is, as we said, the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village. And Scotty Scheffler heads the market, as he does in any event that he plays in, apart from actually the USPGA, which he won a couple of weeks ago, where McIlroy went off favourite. He's 14-5. Colin Morikawa 16-1. Xander Schauffele 16-1. Justin Thomas 18-1. Ludwig Oberg 22. Patrick Cantley 22-1. Tommy Fleetwood 25-1. Corey Connors 30-1. Victor Hovland 30-1. So they make up the top of the market. But before we get into the players and your squad of 4, what is the kind of player that you're looking for who succeeds? As I say, if you look back through recent winners, Scheffler, Rahm, Hovland, DeChambeau, it feels like this is where quality, and given it's Jack Nicklaus's tournament, it makes sense. This is where quality really comes to the fore.
Quality ball strikers that hit a fade and players that have a good short game is a massive, massive requirement this week at Muirfield Village Golf Club. Par 72, 7,569 yards. Anywhere off the fairway around Muirfield can be very, very difficult to recover. So I do want a fair amount of accuracy on side for this week's tournament too, and it is a strong requirement to have a good short game. There's going to be a lot of times this week where players are going to be needing to get up and down for par. There's no doubt about it. I imagine the winning score this week, George, is only going to be around 12, 13 under par. We've been saying these numbers each episode and we're getting them pretty spot on actually, and I do feel quite strongly this one is going to be well below 15 under par once again. So I want decent ball strikers that hit a fade and ones that have a reliable short game too. A lot of the players this week in that top 10 that sort of you mentioned there have got big swing issues for me. Victor Hovland's won this event before, ideally suited to this golf course. His game isn't there. The same can be said with Ludwig Aberg. Xander Schauffele not quite bringing his A game. Colin Morikawa and Tommy Fleetwood struggling with the putting. There's a lot of players in that top section of the market that I think can be avoided for now until they find a little bit of better form. So give it a few weeks. I'm sure they will come back, but there's some much better value in this tournament for this week's event.
Great stuff. Let's get into your squad then. Who's the headline main selection? And I'll give you the price for priced up.
The headline selection is Seth Straker the Bold at 40-1. He's enjoying a fine season this year, George. 2 wins already. He won the American Express and the Truist Championship. It seems like shaving his head has been a really good idea. He's had 10 top 15 finishes in 16 starts. Just let that sink in. 10 top 15 finishes in 16 starts. He's the world number 9 now, and rightly so. He's only missed 2 cuts this season, Both of those missed cuts came at the majors where he wasn't actually suited to the golf course. The Masters or Augusta really isn't a golf course for Seth Straker, and then obviously at Quail Hollow at the PGA Championship. But apart from that, he's been absolutely exceptional. Now, he's not a flashy player. I mentioned this about the likes of sort of Keegan Bradley before, who's that good of a player that he still managed to keep himself inside the sort of top 15 of the world without hitting the ball 340 yards off the tee, without being the best putter in the world. But Seth Straker is exactly the same sort of character, not flashy at all. And with a lot of the players in the top 10 having swing issues, Sep is without shadow of a doubt one of the most reliable players at the moment from tee to green. Keeps it very, very simple, and by doing that, he limits a lot of damage as well. So you're not finding him ever having sort of double bogeys on his card. You're going to have every player around here is going to make bogeys, no doubt about it. But you need a player that's going to be controlled from tee to green, which is Sep Straker, and his short game has improved so much this season. That is what has allowed him to reach up to world number 9 as well. So to me, he just seems on absolute cruise control this season. Tied 5th in this event last year as well. There's no reason why he shouldn't come into this event full of confidence. And the 40-1 is a big discredit to his ability when you base the fact that he is already world number 9 as well. So he should be probably 25-1 probably in my book for this event, considering obviously the players that are above him. The 40-1 just seems quite obscene to me. So I think he's going to have a really good chance at making it win number 3 this week.
Obscene. 40-1. Seth Straker. Who's number 2?
Number 2 is Shane Lowry, another fader.
40-1 again.
40-1, yeah, absolutely. He is probably the player that fits this course better than anyone this week, outside of those top 10 that are obviously struggling a little bit. But he's been really, really consistent with that shot shape, and his short game this year has been absolutely dynamite. He's a 3-time winner on the PGA Tour, and he's become very consistent. 8 top 10s in his last 11 events, and that includes 2 runner-up spots. He did miss the cut at Quail Hollow, but they were 2 pretty satisfactory rounds, to be honest. It was just the fact that he didn't really post a score. He shot 73, 71, did very, very little wrong that week. And bar that as well, he's just been excellent all season long. 40-1 seems far too big for a player that's trending in the right direction, and certainly for a player that, again, hits the right shot shape for this golf course. And as we've said, we need an exceptional golf short game this week. Well, there's not many better out there than Shane Lowry at the moment.
No, absolutely not. Lowry 40-1. So both Straker and Lowry 40-1 were priced up each way terms of 5th to 6th places for the Memorial. Yes. 2 more. Who have we got next?
Yep. So next we have, this is the turning point, I believe, for Matty Fitzpatrick at 45-1. He slipped all the way down to world number 79, but he seemingly bounced back to form last week at a really sort of tough event. He was tied 8th in the PGA. A really good major performance can be a really major confidence booster, effectively, for these players going forward. Look, he's a major winner already. He won the 2022 US Open. Very comfortable out there in America, and he's a class act of a player. He's really been struggling with his shot shape and his ball striking this year, but in the last 2 events, he's been hitting the ball really, really well, enabling him to hit more greens in regulation. And with that being on his side, when he's playing well, he generally putts pretty good too. Got some good course form here. There's no reason why he now shouldn't be able to kick on from that. There's been a few issues in his game. Seemingly they are now fixed. If he can't obviously kick on from there, then I'd say we've got a really big issue going forward. But to me, this looks like the turning point for Matty Fitzpatrick. 45-1, again, probably a discredit to his true ability, really. And I think he's a very valuable selection for this week.
Fitzpatrick, 45-1, the priced up there, joining Straker and Larry and Joe's team. 1 more to come. Who's the 4th and final selection?
4th and final selection is world number 42, a player that absolutely loves it around here, and that is Denny McCarthy at 45-1, I believe, with priced up. Becoming a really consistent player. How he is still a maiden on tour is absolutely beyond me. This course couldn't suit him any better. Tee to green, he has that perfect soft shot shape. He's been more than exceptional with his short game. He was 5th here in 2022. He was beating a playoff here in 2023. And even though he didn't play well here last season, he was having a real rough patch at this point of the season before finding his form again. His form is seemingly progressing this year on a consistency basis. I don't think it's going to be long until he finds himself back into the winner's enclosure. The beauty as well around Denny McCarthy, he can hit the ball left to right, he can hit it right to left, it doesn't really matter. As long as he sticks to his game plan and his short game is there like we know it is usually, then he is going to have a big chance as well at 45-1. I think the squad range is 40 to 1 to 45 to 1. So we're all in that sort of same area. But these 4 players are very much in good form. They're trending in the right direction. They hit all of the right shot shapes. I'd have these over the top 10 in this field, bar Scotty Scheffler, I suppose, every single day of the week at the minute.
Lovely stuff. There we have it. Seth Straker 40 to 1, Shane Lowry 40 to 1, Matt Fitzpatrick 45 to 1, and Denny McCarthy also 45 to 1. All those prices with priced-up.bet. If you haven't got an account already, make sure you go and sign up for one. Generous prices, as Joe says, and they've also got the price boost page on site too. If you look on that, you can find price boosts every day across different sports. Any bets for us in the sub-markets this weekend?
Yeah, well, I did have a look through. I looked at some of the top 10s. I looked at some of the top nationalities, and they almost tie in with my squad already. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to play some cross doubles from the PGA Tour to the DP World Tour. My DP World Tour is obviously live already there on oddschecker, but we're going to take my top 2 from this week. So Seth Straker and Shane Lowry, both at 40 to 1. We are going to cross each way double those 2 players, with Haotong Lee at 22 to 1 for the DP World Tour and Richard Mansell at 50 to 1 on the DP World Tour. So that's 4 bets in total. We just need 1 to place from either of the 2 on the events, but hopefully we can have all 4 in the places and maybe even scrape a win to boost those winnings. So we'll do Seth Straker and Shane Lowry cross doubled with Haotong Lee and Richard Mansell this week. Something a little bit different for us.
Absolutely love it. Mansell 45 to 1, Haotong Lee 22 to 1. Also 5th to 6th places if you're going to have an each way cross doubles. There we go. Some spoils. Joe, if you manage to land both winners. I don't think I've seen many people try, but haven't seen many people pull off the.
We did it last year, George. We did it last year under 373 to 1 double.
Incredible.
Jorge Campillo and Scotty Scheffler. So
there you go.
Next double.
Was that this weekend? Same weekend?
No. It was about this time last year when we had the Kenya Open and the other event. I can't remember which.
Scotty won them all this time last year.
Scotty won, didn't he? Of course he did. Yeah. We've also got the US Women's Open this week, George. Just for people to keep an eye out, I will be putting up a few selections there on the oddschecker column as well. Just something to keep an eye on. We could have even looked at a little bit of a Trixie, but we'll stick with a double. And if we find a week where we've maybe got 3 or 4 events, we can do a few more multiples as the series goes on, I guess.
Cracker, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much to Joe, as ever, for sharing his tips and his insight and his thoughts ahead of the weekend's golf. Should be a brilliant weekend at Muirfield Village, so make sure you keep an eye on that. And we'll, of course, be back next week to preview the event coming up, and not long till the US Open too. So loads going on. We're right in the thick of it now, in full swing of the golf season, and it is coming thick and fast. Hopefully, the next winner is just around the corner. As I say, if you haven't signed up for Priced Up already, make sure you do sign up for an account. It's brilliant there. We really look after their customers, and as I say, lots of price boosts under the price boost page too. Oddschecker have you covered for your fixed odds betting needs as well, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel for every week episodes of Punting Green. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, George. Thanks everyone to tune in. Hopefully we can pay you back with the winner this week.
Great stuff. See you next week. Please ensure that you're gambling responsibly and enjoy the golf.